Data protection and privacy teams are under more pressure than ever with new laws, AI oversight, data breaches, and the constant expectation to do more with fewer resources.
That's why TrustArc built a modern privacy and data protection management platform powered by Arc Intelligence. It unifies your tools, automates the work that slows you down, and surfaces what matters most right when you need it.
From guided quick actions to our intelligent assistant, Ask Arc, you get credible, contextual answers backed by expert research, not generic AI guesses.
Finally, privacy that works the way privacy pros work.
Learn how TrustArc helps teams move faster with confidence at trustarc.com/serious-privacy. That's trustarc.com/serious-privacy.
This is Serious Privacy,
powered by TrustArc.
Here are your hosts, Paul Breitbart and Kay Royal.
After our series from Stockholm, it is time we catch up on the regular privacy news from around the world. So this week, you get a traditional Weekend Privacy episode with all the tidbits from the global data protection community. From the Global Privacy Assembly to ICO fines via CSAM and digital identification, we've got a lot to talk about. My name is Paul Breitbart.
And I'm Kay Royal, and welcome to Serious Privacy. Paul, it's been a minute.
Well, we're back at our desks, or at least I'm back at my desk. You are still somewhere on the road.
Right. And I'll be in Montreal next week. So InCyber Forum is doing their first event outside Europe. It's going to be in Montreal, probably when this session goes live. So I will be there as part of the Top Cyber News magazine, her phenomenal 7 people she picked out, which is phenomenal. And so I'll be there. So I'm looking forward to that.
And I'll be in Paris next week at the first European Health Data Congress.
Oh, I'd love to be at that one too. That's cool.
Well, you can't just hop over to Europe every single week, Kay. I mean, or every single month. It just doesn't work like that anymore.
It doesn't work like that. Teleportation.
We could just apparate, indeed, teleport.
And, I might have to start calling it apparate rather than teleport. I like that. Let's see. If you are expected to wear dark, boring colors, which I take as dark and boring, and you're allowed to add one thing of color, what do you add?
Is this your unexpected question or just regular interest?
Yes. No, unexpected question.
Well, then I choose a tie. That's the advantage of being a man.
Yeah.
You are expected to wear dark, business-suitable colors, so dark gray or dark blue, sometimes even black, although I try to stay away from black as much as I can. With a plain shirt, then the tie can give some color.
The tie gives some color. And mine is socks. If I can't wear a bright shirt because it's expected. And I mean, this came up a lot, especially, being a lawyer when you intern for Court of Appeals or something like that. And they're expecting you to wear the boring colors. I would typically put on a cool pair of socks, or if I was wearing a skirt suit, I'd make sure that I had a frilly, it might not be colorful, but a frilly feminine shirt underneath with lace sleeves and things that are very girly. And yes, I get fussed at a lot for being girly. They're like, hey, don't you want to fit in more? No.
I mean, isn't that
or shoes
very typical of the 90s and early 2000s? Isn't it much more accepted today that people also want to wear color, even in a business context?
Yeah.
Or at least in our business context?
But I'll still say that, if you were still to go represent, in court or something, they would still expect the dark, boring colors. And a lot of judicial offices still expect the dark, boring colors. So yeah, shoes might have been my point of color because I don't like being dark.
I think a lot of men also use socks because men don't like wearing ties anymore. And I still don't mind them. I never hated them. I think they are a nice way also to express yourself. And I think they look good. So
even Travis LeBlanc that we've had on the show, and I've discussed when I first saw him when he was on stage at IAPP, he wore cool socks too. So yeah, I think the socks. And when I was a nurse, That was the only part I could have personality with was the socks. I wore really cool socks. So yeah, I'll go for that. Ties and socks. All right. That's enough of that question. So it's been a minute since you and I have talked about, and there's been quite a bit of privacy that happened. And I'll be honest, maybe I forgot about something that happened 3 weeks ago or something. So let's catch our fans up on hot topics going on in privacy right now.
Well, while we are recording this, I think the eyes of the privacy community are on Bermuda.
Yeah.
Because it's the host of the Global Privacy Assembly, edition 45 already. So time flies. The past 2 days have been the open session. Today and tomorrow will be the closed session. And we'll know at the end of the week what the commissioners are discussing and whether any decisions will be taken on what's happening.
Right.
In any case, I saw some tweets or messages or X's or what should you call them these days from people attending the conference that seemed to enjoy it.
Good.
There was quite a bit of discussion on personal data of indigenous people, which is also starting to become a topic. We know that the IAPP Symposium in Canada hosted a session on that a couple of months ago at the instigation of Konstantin Karvaliotis and some others. But now also at the GPA in the open session, it was discussed, including with African perspectives on stage. So I think that was really good.
Good.
Also received the news that Marty Abrams will in the end step down from the Information Accountability Foundation. He will take an emeritus position, so he will not completely retire.
Well, he's only been running it for 300 years.
Exactly. And I think Marty by now must be somewhere 500-600 years old with
and
all
still
his
looks
inspiration.
fabulous.
Exactly. And he's still working very, very hard. So I do understand that he will be slowing down a little bit. I'm excited about his successor. I'm not sure if you've seen it yet, but Liz Denham will take the reins over the strategy.
Oh, how exciting.
Part of the IAF. And she has already committed to come on the show in the coming weeks.
Fabulous.
To join us for a conversation.
It's hard to replace Marty. You know, people joke about big shoes to fill. You can't even try to fill them. You just set them to the side, you honor them, and you walk in your own.
Exactly. And I think that's exactly what Liz plans to do. She's talking to a lot of people right now to come up with her own plan for where the IAS should be heading.
Oh, that's fabulous.
That is in any case one of the tidbits that came out of Bermuda. And then I wouldn't be worth my salary if I wouldn't mention that registration for the 46th Global Privacy Assembly next year is already open, which will be held in Jersey. Not the state of Jersey, but Jersey, the Channel Island here in Europe.
So I might actually be going to that one.
I would recommend that you do, actually. Yes, the 46th Global Privacy Assembly will take place from 28th of October 2024 until the 1st of November 2024 in Jersey, in and around St. Helier. I'm really looking forward to it. And as said, registration is open already with early bird fees. So do join us next year and enjoy the wonders of Jersey.
Oh, that should be awesome. That's exciting. Okay. So what else have we had going on? I mean, if I look or think back over the big things that I've noted before, I mean, the ones, that came out just when you talk about Clearview AI, won the appeal of the ICO fine. Yes, I've gone and
but only because the ICO apparently was not competent in this situation. So nothing on merit, just on competence.
Yep, exactly. Or as we might look at it, jurisdiction. I think that's how I would interpret it. I might have to check that out. But yeah. So that was one. So I know that's going to be brought up again. And then some other things that might not have made the big news. There's a whole
we've got a few things on children's data, right?
There is. The injunction that was in California, now the Attorney General has filed an appeal to that. So we'll look forward to the results of what that one is. Google,
just
of course,
remind
is all
us
over
of the injunction because it's a couple of weeks ago.
Yes. This is on the age-appropriate design code. So the courts asked for an injunction on the enforcement of the age-appropriate design code in California, and that was granted. And now the Attorney General is appealing that injunction. And we have other things on children's data as well. I think Montana has a block on using TikTok, and that's already being challenged to get that thrown out. There's some other things going on with social media where, right or wrong, we want to limit children's exposure to certain aspects of social media or such long time frames of social media. Those are happening as well. You and I have discussed it before. Some people think limiting it is right. Some people think limiting it is wrong, and it's almost always open to parental options. But is it got to be a default on or off, one or the other? And parents can usually go change it. But there's the whole thing of how do you prove that someone is someone's parent, and why are you acting like Big Brother and restricting someone's time? And there's all these arguments. I'm just saying there are things happening.
And how do you do that while minimizing the amount of personal data that you process about anybody?
Exactly.
To make it even more complex. Well, while we're on the topic of children's data, the ICO released the results of their investigation, or the initial results of their investigation against Snap, together with a preliminary enforcement notice. And this was specifically aimed at the generative AI chatbot My AI that is now included in Snapchat. And basically, the ICO concludes that Snap failed to adequately identify and assess the risk to several million of users in the UK, including children aged 13 to 17. And my guess is also quite a few younger than 13, although Snap would never readily admit that. And one of the beefs that the ICO has with Snap is that the data protection impact assessment was not good enough. The risks were not properly assessed, especially with regard to children's data being included in this Gen AI tool. I don't believe that this will be the last time that we hear about Gen AI in relation to children. No. But this is only the preliminary injunction or the preliminary enforcement notice. Snap has some time to respond to the conclusions of the ICO, and then we'll hear more, including on a potential sanction. But this has been quite a clear statement from John Edwards as well. He repeats that the ICO has been clear that organizations must consider the risks associated with artificial intelligence alongside the benefits, and they will continue to fight for people's individual rights.
Absolutely. And maybe our last little piece on children, Israel's authority has issued guidance about remote education for student privacy and protecting student privacy remote. That has been something that really came to the forefront in the past 3 years, and we're still wrestling with it now. There were several countries that blocked using certain technology, perhaps Google, perhaps Microsoft. And I think quietly some of those technologies were added back in, but this is Israel issuing some new guidance on it. So, just pay attention, people. Protecting children's privacy is kind of important. If we erode it while they're young, it's hard for them to get it back later. And they're such a vulnerable population.
And also looking at generative AI is important.
Yeah.
And that means also reviewing updates that you see from services changing their terms and conditions. Earlier this week, MailChimp announced that they now see fit to use all your data to also train their Gen AI solutions. Whether you like it or not, no way to opt out. It will just happen. It's included in their terms and conditions. So if you are a MailChimp user, be aware of that and be careful.
Well, and that's true. And here's a tip for people, something we've discussed before, but it's always worth throwing out there. You may actually look at the permissions and the terms of apps that you download to your phone or your device. And you may say you don't grant them certain permissions because why on earth would they need a camera? Why on earth would they need access to your contacts? Things like that. But then you set your device on automatic updates. And those automatic updates typically throw in 3 to 4 times more types of permissions that you might have declined, except for you set it to automatic updates and you approve those. So unless you're going through and actually watching what your apps are doing, watch those automatic updates as well. I had someone come to me with a question this past week going, have there been any cases where a privacy notice has been deemed a binding contract? No,
No, because you cannot agree to a notice. It's a one-way
Yeah.
piece of paper.
Well, I
Or at
don't
least that is
know
what it should
all
be.
cases exactly, but here's the thing. Typically anything that's online that goes from a business to a consumer and there's no opportunity to engage in negotiation, you either use it or you don't. That's not consent. Whether it's a privacy notice or whether it's your operating terms, it's not a consent. It's a notice, and your choice is to either use it or not. So that's typically an imbalanced negotiation. It's not a negotiation. And so usually they are not held to be binding. And as Paul said, a notice is a notice. It's not consent. It's not giving the opportunity to engage in conversation. It's a notice. You're telling people what you do. And if you still have in your privacy notice that continuation to use our site is deemed consent to these privacy terms, take that out right now. It's a no.
Yeah.
Don't make me smack your
Yes,
hand.
Mama
Take
Kate.
it out. Take it out.
But it is true. You should take that out. Also, well, even if you don't take it out, I don't care because it's not valid.
It's not valid, right? It's not deemed consent. Sorry. It doesn't meet any of the parameters of consent other than informing people. But let's look at some other things that have actually happened in here. So,
Well, there's been some nominations to the Federal Trade Commission moving
yes,
forward.
there has been.
They are confirmed in the Senate Committee on Commerce, Science and Transportation. Always fun to see the Transportation Committee dealing with data protection. But indeed, 3 nominations actually went through. The Republican commissioner nominees Andrew Ferguson and Melissa Holyoke are both first-term nominations, and Rebecca Kelly Slaughter was re-nominated from the Democratic side, and the full Senate vote should happen somewhere in the coming weeks, but no blockages are expected.
No blockages are expected. So we're looking good at that. I will say that one of the other things, as long as we're on U.S. federal agencies, one of the other things is we've been looking for some updates to the NIST privacy standards. They're being a little slow on that. So we'll still await new updates on that one. So not a huge news flash for you there.
The news is no news.
The news is no news. I still hold, regardless of what Jason Kronk says, the NIST privacy framework is not the easiest thing to wrap your brain around. There are some controls in there that you're literally looking, going, what does that even mean? So anyway, but
Yeah.
some others, there was another, Australia's e-safety commissioner fined X for not disclosing their CSAM measures. And I think there's a bunch of things against X and what they're doing and not doing.
Well, mainly against what they're not doing. They're also under fire in Europe for indeed not limiting fake news. The same, by the way, for TikTok and some of the other online social media, and especially in the light of the war between Hamas and Israel, where a lot of fake news has materialized. So that is certainly ongoing. When you mentioned CSAM, the CSAM debate is becoming pretty heated here in Europe because the Council of Ministers, so the representatives of the EU member states, was supposed to have a vote this week on the CSAM legislation, including the client-side scanning. And apparently there is no agreement yet because the vote was pulled from the agenda, which is in itself good news. But the European Commission is now being accused of actually misusing social media to target the critics of CSAM.
Yes.
There are a number of examples of journalists being
I missed that one.
somehow silenced on X, or at least made invisible on X, because they were very outspoken against CSAM, and also very targeted advertising from the European Commission on people who can influence the debate. So the debate on X is somewhat muted, but if you move over to Mastodon and look for the debate there, you see that the critics are very much outspoken. Also on the role of the European Commissioner for Home Affairs, who is very much put in defensive mode. And she says, oh no, I'm just doing what I should be doing, and that is defending my proposal. I strongly believe that we should do this because it's children we are talking about. But she doesn't comment on the merits of the argument of those opposing the CSAM proposals.
Did you hear that X has now rolled off charging people? It's going to be in 2 countries, Philippines and New Zealand.
Somewhere else, yeah.
Philippines and New Zealand. They're going to call it not a bot. It's $1 a year But apparently if you pay, you can engage. But if you don't pay, you can only read.
Yeah, and people running about the $1 a year is really, really making it very difficult for them to run a bot.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, because the people who run bots don't run just a couple hundred bots. Let's be honest, people.
No, but they also make a
it's
lot of money
interesting.
running those bots. So even then,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't trust Elon Musk with my financial details for the world.
God, right? Just drop $1 and see if someone can pick it up somewhere. That ought to be payment enough, right?
Yeah. No,
Okay,
absolutely
so
not.
what else do we have? I know there's a lot. You had a few other things happening in
Yeah,
Europe.
well,
Here
while
in
we're
the
talking about
US.
money, let's talk
money.
about the euro, because the
Ooh,
European Central Bank, together with the European Commission, wants to use a digital euro. Now, I've read quite a bit about this because I'm trying to get my head around what this will mean and how it will work, because they are trying to introduce a digital version of our currency.
Okay. Yeah, that's been under discussion
In my
for a
mind,
little
we've
bit.
had that for decades, because I'm hardly using cash anymore these days. I'm paying
does?
everything by card or with my phone. Apparently, the idea is that you don't just have with your bank where there is the digital equivalent of something that you could have in cash on there, but that you can actually have digital only money, which is not available in cash, that is then connected somehow to the European Central Bank, and where you can make reliable online payments. And this idea came up,
Reliable online payments.
I believe, as an alternative to all the cryptocurrency, which is, of course, also digital first, but which is very unreliable, at least in the eyes of government institutions, and also very unstable in terms of its worth, its value. So the European Central Bank wants to have a digital currency, a digital euro, which obviously will also have data protection implications, because there is a lot of personal data processed in financial transactions.
Yes, there is.
So now the European Data Protection Supervisor and the European Data Protection Board have issued a joint statement calling for adequate data protection to be included in this whole development, and to pay a lot of attention to privacy by design and privacy by default. It's not that it hasn't been taken into account in the proposals that are circulating right now, but they need to do even better. For example, there will be single access points to verify that the amount of digital money held by a user doesn't exceed a maximum allowed, which is the holding limit. And well, that requires, of course, all kinds of checks also in real time. So that is something where the necessity and proportionality needs to be assessed according to the DPAs. Also, when it comes to fraud detection, when it comes to payment service providers' involvement, and some others, also anti-money laundering. So they've written an extensive opinion on the digital euro. But this is also a proposal that politically is far from guaranteed to be successful, because quite a few parties have concerns, are opposed, and also, probably just like me, do not really see the added value of this proposal at this time.
Interesting.
More
Speaking of that, I don't know if you realize that Arizona is the first, and at this point, maybe the only state to let its driver's license be uploaded to your Apple Wallet.
Yes, I read that too. I'm also not sure whether that is something that I would be happy to do.
I haven't done it. You would think it might help with things like airports or traveling or something, but I don't know. It means I just have to keep my phone, not my wallet with me, but pretty soon I won't have an Arizona license. So that won't matter. But I will say some things take a long time. One of the things that Paul and I talked about at the Nordic Privacy Arena was the complaints on how long the regulators take to decide. And I pointed out that I think they decide quicker than the U.S. does. I mean, let's be honest. And here's one. This isn't a regulator, but it reminded me of that. There was a lawsuit in 2010 against Google leaking users' personal information to publishers for their search. When you would put something in the search, and that settlement was announced in January, but now it's approved. I think yesterday or just last week or something, just said that it was approved. $23 million of a 13-year-old case And I believe they said at this point they're anticipating anyone who joined the class action suit to get about $7. So,
And does
there
that
you
include
go.
interest from January 20?
Right. No, it's so weird. Don't go spend it all in one place. You might buy a year or two of X, which that just sounds weird, doesn't it? I don't like saying that.
No, I also don't like it. Let's just
There's a
continue
whole other
calling it
thing.
Twitter.
Let's just keep going and see what else we have. But see, here's the thing. I was hardly even going to mention Google's lawsuits because, of course it's Google. Of course there's lawsuits. Of course
And
there's
of
things.
course it takes a long time. I mean,
We're so bored.
the initial Facebook case from Max Schrems also still is running. It still has not been resolved because that is still, and I mean, we've had 2 CGEU cases on data transfers, the Schrems 1 and
Yeah.
Schrems 2, obviously, but the basic case still has not been resolved. That's still ongoing, which is of course also pretty stupid.
Well, I'm looking for some headlines that are catching my attention. Sri Lanka appointed the board of directors for their privacy agency. That's phenomenal. New Zealand privacy commissioner had to weigh in on using CCTV in the school bathrooms. And by the way, did you hear that 23andMe had a data breach? I mean, of course they had a data breach. I'm just saying.
Look at my face being surprised.
Yeah, I know. You're the one rolling your eyes now. We're like, of course they had a breach. Is anybody surprised they had a breach?
Was it all of their data or was it just half of it?
I don't know. But 4 million users, which is crazy because earlier you were talking about privacy of indigenous peoples. Here in the U.S., the indigenous tribes typically don't participate in things like 23andMe with DNA analysis. But it's not even the 23andMe. They don't like to participate in DNA analysis. And so therefore, a lot of the DNA analysis that comes out cannot take that into account. And so a lot of people are saying, hey, I'm Choctaw or whatever, and it didn't show up in my DNA. Well, that's because it's probably not in the databases because they're very protective over their privacy.
Understandably.
Right?
So
it should
while
be.
we are on the topic of big tech, the 27th of October is a day to watch out for because allegedly that is when the European Data Protection Board will need to take a decision on the Norwegian referral for personalized advertising on Facebook. Just as a reminder, following the Bundeskartellamt case before the Court of Justice of the European Union, Norway said this is taking too long. We impose a temporary processing ban on Meta for all personalized advertising that is using more than location, age group, and gender. And we request that this ban will be permanent and will be valid for the whole of the European Economic Area. It was officially referred to the board just after we came back from Stockholm.
Okay.
So a week ago or so, 2 weeks ago. And the board now has 2 weeks to make a decision, which apparently is due by the end of this month.
Well, let's keep bated breath on that one.
Absolutely. Yeah, that will be interesting also to see what the future of ad tech will be here in the European Union.
That's going to be really interesting. And we should probably have another session on cookies. I think people really like cookies. We keep talking about it.
Yeah, chocolate chip, please.
Yes, exactly. Right. We need to talk about it. By the way, my daughter loves the gluten-free waffles. Yes. I think they disappeared quickly. And the children loved the little cookies. Anyway, where was I even going with this? You're killing me.
A new episode on cookies.
Yes, we need a new episode on cookies. And I've said
We will.
over and over, I'm going to reach out to Darren Abernathy because he still in my brain is probably one of the world's best experts on cookies. I don't know why I have that in my brain. Darren may have completely brainwashed me. But I need to reach out to Darren and ask him if he'll come on. And then I think you had someone over in Europe that week. Oh, Alex.
Obviously.
There's a show that writes itself.
We don't even need to talk, I guess.
Yeah, we don't even need to talk. And we'll follow up on state laws just to keep y'all up. Maine and New Hampshire are still working on their privacy laws here in the U.S. Florida passed one. Sometimes it's included in the states that passed omnibus privacy laws. Sometimes it's not. And the reason being, it has the threshold, the company has to be, I think, a $2 billion company or something. So they're not considering it applicable across the board. It's really
fair enough.
more legislating big tech.
And I guess it still doesn't apply to me. So
It still doesn't apply to you, but it does omnibus privacy laws. There still are, once they meet the thresholds, and they do have much lighter privacy than some of the other states, but this is Florida regulating big tech, and who knows, it could be, what's his name, DeSantis going against Disney again, for all I know.
yeah,
That's a battle that's not worth talking about. But
It's not.
regardless, so we'll keep you up to date on that. So just things moving and grooving here in the U.S.
Do you remember the Finnish Vastaamo case? This was the health data app, the mental health data app
Yes.
that was hacked
Yeah.
because they kept a backdoor open for quick maintenance to be able to do that online. And obviously that was not a good idea. A hacker
Right.
gained access. In the end, late last year, the hacker was arrested following a
Nice.
European arrest warrant. And he has actually been officially charged this week
Good.
by the prosecutors in Finland. And he has been
Yeah.
charged with over 21,000 counts of extortion
Oh, wow.
for stealing all this data. And the
Wow.
prosecution is seeking a 7-year prison sentence for the defendant because he thought that he could extort 360,000 euros in Bitcoin from Vastaamo in exchange for not leaking the records. And he started actually leaking the records when the company did not pay. As we know, the company went bankrupt. But apart from that, the accused also sent extortion letters to patients demanding sums ranging from 2 to 500 euros, also in order not to disclose their data. On top of the 21,000 counts of extortion, he was also charged with 9,598 counts of dissemination of information, infringing
Wow.
on personal privacy.
Yeah.
So almost 10,000 accounts were actually released in public, and another 21,000 he tried to. The trial is scheduled to begin November 13th and will last until February of next year. So more to follow in season 5.
There we go. And let me close out with this really interesting story. And I'm sorry I didn't mention it before. There was a Colorado case of a house that was set on fire, and the house had in it, I think it was 5 immigrants from Senegal in West Africa, and it killed all 5. And so there was a warrant to Google for the searches for that address. They wanted the Denver police had a warrant to provide IP addresses of anyone who had searched over 15 days for the address of the home that was set on fire. Google was able to produce a spreadsheet of 61 searches made by 8 accounts. Google provided the IP addresses for those accounts only. 5 of the addresses were in Colorado. So the police followed up, got another search warrant for other ways, was able to track those IP addresses down, identified 3 teenagers as suspects for setting the fire, and the court upheld that it was legitimate for this warrant, for this targeted purpose for this, even though they're arguing that it's an unreasonable search and seizure to go to Google overly broad for that. Seems pretty targeted to me. They are charging the 3 teens.
Yeah, in this case, I would understand. There were no alternative means.
There were no alternative means. It led them to it. Yep, exactly.
And it's a very serious case.
2 of them are being charged as adults. Yep.
Here I would understand.
It was murder.
And indeed, it was with a warrant and all.
Yep. 2 of them were 16 years old. They're going to be charged as adults for first-degree murder, attempted murder, arson, and burglary. And the third teen is 14 and will be charged as a juvenile, but he pled guilty to second-degree murder under a deal because he had a lesser role in the fire. And he was sentenced to 10 years. That one really caught my attention.
What makes people do these kind of things? I keep wondering.
Yeah.
But there are many things happening in the world right now where I think what makes people do these kind of things. On that sad note, we'll wrap up another episode of Serious Privacy. If you like the episodes, join the conversation on LinkedIn, find us under Serious Privacy, and like and subscribe in your favorite podcast app. You will find Kate on social media as Heart of Privacy, myself as Europol B. Until next week, goodbye.
Bye, y'all.
That was Serious Privacy.
If you're a data protection or privacy professional, you already know the pressure. Non-stop regulatory change, AI oversight, internal demands, and the expectation to somehow stay ahead of it all. And the old patchwork of tools just isn't cutting it anymore.
No. That's why TrustArc created a modern privacy management platform powered by Arc Intelligence. The TrustArc platform brings your workflows, evidence, research, tasks, and applications all together in one unified and intelligent workspace so you don't waste time digging, clicking, or context switching.
With Ask Arc, your privacy assistant, you can ask plain language questions about laws, jurisdictions, or even your own program data and get credible, cited answers based on NIMBY research and more than 1,000 global laws. It's explainable, transparent, and purpose-built for data protection and privacy.
So if you need to add a vendor, create a cookie banner, or start an assessment, quick actions take formally complex tasks, turn them into bite-sized guided workflows to save you time.
It's a platform that thinks like you, works like you, and helps you move faster with confidence, whether you're a seasoned DPO or you're just getting started.
See how modern privacy gets done. Explore Arc at trustarc.com/serious-privacy. That's trustarc.com/serious-privacy.